to see you all. Right, okay. Right, so today we're carrying on with our experiment module, and we're going to be looking at the area of pixelation. Okay, so we've all looked at it before, and we're going to do something practical in the studio, because we've got very interestingly, we have a piece of furniture and some props and stuff we can use. So that's actually quite fun. We can start playing around with that. I'm going to be using Dragon Frame and the laptop to shoot that with a camera, which is stuff that we can all kind of get involved in. We can all sort of take it into internet to do stuff, which would be quite fun. If you look online, guys, I've put on the if I go to the thing that I've shared online, there's some stuff to look at. Okay, so if I go back to well, I've given you a link to this page, which is the best stop motion apps for Android. Obviously, I'm sure there's one for iPhone as well. You know, so if you've got an iPhone. But what I'd quite like you to do is maybe have a look at this today. Once we've done, I'll do a little introduction as to what pixelation is, what we're doing, and then I'm going to do a practical exercise in the room with you guys, and then online you can have a look at the different software that's available. Okay, but as a group, we're going to look at a selection of short videos that are pixelated, so you get an idea of the sort of things we could play around with and give you an idea. So what I'd ideally like you to do at home after that is to maybe download one of these apps onto your phone and set up a way to make a short pixelated movie at home. Oh, brilliant. Okay, so now we're going to have a quick look at sort of, I've got 3 or 4 videos. We're not going to watch the whole thing, just to give you an idea of the sort of stuff that you can do with pixelation. And then I'll you know, while you're looking at the software list that I've given you that you could use to explore it further, I'm going to quickly set up a pixelation setup in the studio. Okay, so the first video we're going to watch is something called Neighbours. It's by an artist called Norman McLaren. It's from the 1950s, and it's kind of the classic use of pixelation. So it's manipulating live action in a way. It's playing around with frames and kind of using live action in a slightly different way. I'm going to kind of skip through it. We've looked at some Norman McLaren stuff before. He liked his experimental electronic soundtracks, as you can hear, which I'm going to turn down now. So at the moment, we've just got a normal live action sequence. But there's a bit of a sense of humour going on. So this was shot pre-video, this was shot using film. So this could have been shot normally and then the frames removed on a certain amount. And I think for some of them, for some of the sequences, that's how it's been done. It's been edited afterwards and the frames have been removed. But in other parts, as you'll see later on, they've definitely taken a frame, manipulated the things in camera, which is the people as well, and then taken another picture. Okay, you'll see that. Like obviously this, there's an animated puppet there with the flowers. It's got a wire inside it. So here, this is being manipulated frame by frame. He's lying on the ground and being moved around. You know, it's trick film. Yeah. even have a go at flying later on. So basically, you take a picture of it in the air only. We'll see a bit more of this and then. We're looking at, this is another really famous example. I'm going to skip forward because there's quite a lot going on. Okay, so this is a music video in the 80s. Peter Gabriel. So this was done by Aardmans in Bristol. But the way they did it was that each sequence was done by a different set of animators that had different ideas to play with. So they all came in with their plan for their section and did that bit. So you'll actually see, we looked at the Quay brothers at all, and we did, didn't we, in one of the other sequences. You'll see the bit that's done by the Quay brothers at some point. And there's bits that were done, probably the bit with bump cars was Nick Clark, because it looks like his sort of style. So you can actually see the different stuff going on. But the syncing isn't perfect, is it? It's really quite. It looked amazing at the time, but the timing's not quite spot on because it was impossible to actually match them up at the time. Yeah, so this is the Quay brothers bit. So there's bits of it that are just pure animation, yeah. But then you've got the pixelated parts, which is where it's kind of interacting between all the bits. And there's a bit with the dancing chicken, which is about the most famous bit. There you go. So somebody stuck an armature inside a live chicken, a dead chicken. Sorry. Right, here we go. So this one is interesting. This is not very good quality, unfortunately. Strange how stuff from like late 90s, early 2000s is not as good quality. There's been, there isn't a remastered version out there. So again, this is another music video. It's using ideas of pixelation and time lapse. So as well as kind of manipulating a figure as an animation puppet, they're filming in the City of London and just letting the background do whatever it's doing. So they're shooting obviously a certain number of frames, but then the person who's being the puppet has to then move only when they ask them to, if that makes sense. So they take a frame, which means the background kind of whizzes by, and then the person is sort of animated within the sequence. So there's some interesting bits when she crosses the road and stuff. Video goes really well with the song, works really well with the sort of the way that the song works, but it's one idea just played out. The yeah, okay, we can have a look at this. This is The Secret Adventures of Tom Thumb, which is yeah, it's a very disturbing movie. I won't put it any other way. It's kind of the only full-length featured film made using pixelation, certainly at that time. Again, made in Bristol, but not by Aardmans, by a company called Bolex Brothers, who are now no longer in existence. And they they had this idea of doing a movie entirely using pixelation so that they could combine puppet characters and live action figures. And it's a kind of a very twisted retelling of the Tom Thumb idea. So, you know, the child is born, it's really tiny and it has to live in the world. But the idea is, I think there's like genetic experiments and there's a whole world of little people in the world. And everybody's kind of miserable and awful and it's all kind of grim. What they do say is, what they did say was quite interesting was that all the actors in the film were animators because they were the only people who actually could understand and take the direction properly. So most of the people in this film are actually the people working on the film. If that makes any sense. Right. So again, you see a lot of this in adverts though. So here's this pixelation manipulating a model set, and then you've got somebody kind of asleep in bed and using all of the kind of paraphernalia of that to then make the rest of the video. I think there was an Expedia one recently that used that idea as well. And there was quite a nice one about you've got too much stuff. There was like waves of junk in somebody's house or kind of stuff in somebody's house, and then you sort of packaged it all up in a box and put it into storage. I mean, it is interesting because you're manipulating people, but you're also manipulating the objects that are related to what the subject of the story is, yeah? No idea what the advert's for, but there we go. And this is another classic, which is, again, manipulating everyday objects. So this is a student film where somebody's used post-it notes and the story's about not being able to finish their work. Again, but it's the advantage of being able to use like video and just have instant playback now, whereas obviously when Norman McLaren was doing it, he was shooting blind. Until they got the film back, they didn't know what results they got. And to be honest, with stuff like the Rolex Brothers and the Sledgehammer stuff, that's the same as well. Although they'd have had a video feed, that was only like a preview of what they were doing. Until they got the film processed and back, they didn't know anything. Whereas what we're going to do today with stuff like that, you can instantly see what you're doing, which is the real advantage of kind of the sort of digital technology. Was that you've had a little introduction to pixelation, you've got some ideas now maybe. So what I'd quite like you guys at home to do, I'm going to come back to here, is to then maybe look at the evaluation of different software, maybe get something downloaded on your computer potentially, but mainly I was thinking on your phone, and you can start playing around and seeing what you can do with it using stop motion on your phone. Okay, the big thing you're going to need to do is to be able to lock your phone in position. Okay, so I'm just going to set up in the room now, but hopefully you're good online. Yeah, we're going to set up a little set here. There's already a sofa, so we can play around with it. I'm going to set the camera up and the computer on the table, which we've got. Know what to do. Other options are available. Although I'm going to be using Dragonframe today, you can just use a camera and take individual frames and then stitch them together on the timeline with Premiere. Now, if you've been using Premiere with Mark, moves, kind of destroys the illusion. So having a tripod like this set up with the camera is a real advantage, and the camera doesn't move. Okay, you can manipulate the camera, but you have to animate the camera moving. So in the first instance, I would suggest you always keep the camera locked off on a tripod and move things in front of it. Taking this up as I go along, guys. I'm still taking 2 frames for each shot. And hopefully that all makes sense. So the challenge I've got is trying to half open this. Just choose it.